Okay, I always would use this in class. There's so many painters. What grade would you give Picasso? If you were a teacher, I think he would be failing class. Okay, what side of the face, eye coming out of it? You know, so I mean, really.
Welcome to Acting Smarter Now. I'm Lydia Nicole, actress, producer, and your career coach, dedicated to helping you break through the noise, own your craft, and transform your career from undiscovered to unstoppable. My question for you today is, what if one bold image, one unapologetic brushstroke could shift how the world sees your culture, your story, your power as an artist? Well, today I am thrilled to introduce to you Dr. Synthia St. James. She is a world renowned multicultural visual artist and author whose iconic work, from the cover of Terry McMillan's Waiting to Exhale to the first U.S. Kwanzaa stamp, has helped to redefine how Black joy, Black beauty, and community are seen around the world. What is your favorite thing about being an artist?
It didn't really take me long to figure it out. It's just a gift from the creator. And that's very major. That's very big. And it made me understand even more when my mother told me after I was grown that even as a kid, I love being around people, but I always went someplace quiet to be by myself and do some little sketching or whatever I was doing. So I love that quiet time and the time that you can just listen to your spirit and your little voice within and come up with what you're going to create. That's it. It's a wonderful self challenge. It's a personal best in a sense, although I'm not competing with myself at all. Every painting I do, I like to see if there's something extra I can give it that's not in another painting.
What is that quiet space for you? You talked about the creator, you talked about sitting. As you were talking, I'm thinking you're almost channeling God in you to do your art.
Yes, I've got haven't been able to do my walk lately, but what I did for 18 years is I live in Los Feliz, and I would drive to the beach every morning to get there before dawn so that I'm walking on the sand at dawn doing my affirmations and prayers when the birds are not even up yet, and just kind of walking in that sand and being with spirit and being with nature and loving seeing the seagulls, loving seeing the dolphins. Anytime I saw a dolphin, that was a plus. But that would be my ritual to just go do that. It didn't matter. I went to bed extremely early to do it. It was just so refreshing. So I would just walk along the beach, sometimes 3, sometimes 7 miles.
Wow.
And then I drive back. So you see, it was a passion, but it also helped me to release and in my mind, open it up to start a new painting. And that's what I'm going through right now. I'm getting ready to start a new painting, but it's commissioned. So there's more factors into that, what is commissioned for and who and all that. And I'm doing my research. I do a lot of research. So I'm researching. I bought all my new paints. I've got my new canvas. It's on my easel. And the next step is getting there. The other thing that can take me there, some music. I designed a 150-foot ceramic tile mural for Ontario International Airport. And I did it completely to Sade's greatest hits.
Wow.
It played the whole time. I still was doing my walks, but not as diligently as I did later. But it was like that smoothness, another creative spirit, and just I don't know. It was just the best thing for me. And I've done more than one painting, or I mean, there must have been some other things I designed to her and other music that makes me feel that way. Another one of my girls is Brenda Russell.
Oh my God, love
Yeah,
Brenda Russell. Oh,
yeah. Brenda Russell's my heart. She's also a friend. And I told her when we first met about what my creative, in fact, there was several paintings I did in a row just to her music. And when I
wow.
met her, I told her about it. And one painting I did for a church in Harlem, I used a special one of her pieces. And when we unveiled it in New York, I had them play the music.
Amazing.
Right, it's Schoenberg. So we played the music and everything.
I'll tell you a little A little quick Brenda Russell story. I was in the record business. I was actually a program music director at KGFJ and Cute 102 back in the day. And Brenda Russell's first album was Brian and Brenda Russell on MCA. And I must have ran that album to the ground. I listened to it so much. So when you talk about Brenda Russell, I totally connect with it. But go ahead. I just wanted to share how big a fan I am of Brenda.
Well, that's so it's great to talk to a kindred spirit when it comes to her. And so what has happened over the years, especially around the time of Color Purple, I was in New York and just happened to be in the same hotel where I was having an exhibition, a solo exhibition, right, off Broadway, not off Broadway, but you know what I mean, in Broadway, a couple of blocks away from where they were rehearsing, and she was creating the music. And we happened to be staying in the same hotel, but it was a hotel where you could kind of live there too. She left me a beautiful note in the lobby where my art was. It was, well, downstairs. So we ran into each other the last day in the elevator. So that's how we met. But the sweet, so it was so beautiful to have her feel the same way about my art. So I think now, I think she must have about 5 pieces, but it's around where she often creates. So it's like I've created to her music, and she's sometimes has created to mine.
I want to start with you as a kid, in that you knew at 5 you wanted to be an artist. You knew innately that was you were connected to that. But at 12, 13, 14, you saw a movie which solidified you being an artist.
When someone says, what was your inspiration? For me, a lot of times inspiration isn't always something that's beautiful and good. For me, the movie told me, and I hadn't really started yet because I was probably 14 or whatever. Moulin Rouge, Jose Ferrer played Toulouse-Lautrec. And Zsa Zsa Gabor worked for once in her life, and she was the singer where he painted and did the sketching. And what I saw in that was all the things that was going to make my goals. That in my lifetime I was going to sell my art and make a living from it, and that I was going to live longer because most of these guys died in their late 20s or early 30s. And then the third one is funny because I said this once in a lecture at USC, and they're all creative women from the Natural Women's Museum in DC, and a lot of them didn't know what I meant. I said, and I was not going to become a total dipsomaniac. They did, so a lot in the audience didn't know what dipsomaniac was, but I enlightened them. And the next speaker started her speak talking about dipsomania. And this was a crowded room. I mean, it was so big. And I just started always to tell people it's in our English dictionary as well, but those were the things that I was going to take care of myself, be healthy, all that. And those are the things. And of course, I've gotten to all of those things have happened already, so that was an inspiration to me, not because everything came of roses, is because I didn't want to go down.
You were quite a manifester starting at a young age.
Yeah.
You really had your eyes set. You were practical.
Yeah, and a tomboy too, jumping off garages and all kind of stuff. But I knew that I had that passion, and it wasn't because of anyone around me. It was nothing from anything I saw. My mom and my dad wasn't taking us to museums in New York or anything like that. I just know that, and I can't even tell you why, except that little voice inside was still there. So you know how they say, the older you get, the further you get away from why you're here.
Yes.
Because if you're not listening.
I want to get into, because I really want the audience to understand, you started to come about right after Jim Crow, and right when the women's movement was starting to take hold. I mean, you sold your first piece of art to one of your bosses at 20.
Yeah, I was an accounts receivable clerk at oh God, it was a mortgage insurance company, and he was one of the lawyers, one of the closers. And so Daniel Fishman was my first, and all he saw of me was that on paydays, I at lunchtime I went to the art store closest to where we worked on 51st and 5th. I'd come back with this big bag of art supplies that I didn't even quite know how I was going to do it because I'm self-taught. So I didn't know particularly what you're supposed to put on this, which I did it. That's all I know. I just started doing it. And then I had to be an hilarious sight because I lived up in like 224th Street in the Bronx. I was always on the L coming down, but I'd be coming home with big canvases that I was going to work on because it was abstract period time too. And this little person, just over 5'2", but barely 5'3", carrying these canvases at rush hour on the subway.
Oh
Let's
God.
stop. All right. And then when I
All
finished
crushed
it,
up. You're all
yeah,
crushed up.
and everybody looking at me like kind of strange, but kind of like laughing. They probably thought I was an art student, I'm thinking. And then to take my precious finished painting back downtown, you know. So, but it was nothing like it. I still like in any kind of art store is to a candy store to me.
I love that. I want to get a bridge to you deciding you're going to be an artist. Now you're over 18, you got to make a living. How did your parents navigate the waters with you at that time? Cuz 18 you graduate from high school. So you graduate from high school, what is the mandate in the house?
Well, my mother, who was very supportive, you got it, a young black girl in civil rights time, when all this stuff was going on. And she was very supportive, but what she had recommended to me was to, go to college. I was going to go to college, but I never took art. I went to college taking liberal arts, and she said maybe the best thing to do is go through the schooling and then come out and become an art teacher, teach. And it sounded pretty good, especially back then, but it didn't last. The good didn't sound very good for long. But back then, because summers were off, it's all different kind of curriculum we have now. So the teachers generally had the summer off. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, the summer would be totally painting, and the rest of the year I'd be going to work and whatever. That didn't work that way. I went to college out here for a semester in Los Angeles, LA Valley College, and it makes me go back to stuff like passing by areas where I said, oh, I think I might want to take fencing. I don't know why. I never did, but it was kind of interesting. Let me just back up a little step because this is fun too.
So did you go to Valley College at 18? When you got out of high school, where did you go?
I graduated from Los Angeles High School.
Oh, so you were in Los Angeles at the time.
Yeah, my mother and father were both born and raised New Yorkers from the Bronx. They did a series of back and forth, back and forth. A little later, they broke up, and there's a second marriage and a second mother who I adored. So I'll give it to you this way. The wonder years of growth, 2 to 6, 18 to 22, I lived in New York. I thought I was born in New York. And when I came back here when I was 6, and I went to school, and everybody was asking me stuff because I really had a very thick accent at that time. I know I got a little bit now, but I had a thick one when I was 6. The kids were asking me where I was from and all this stuff, and I was feeling very exotic because I was different. And I went home to my mother and I said, "Oh, everybody's asking me where I'm from," and I'm telling them I'm from New York. And she busted my bubble. She told me I was born in California, in Los
Oh,
Angeles. Oh God, that was a setback. but then, so I learned 2 to 6 are very formative years. I remember the Wonder Bread commercial, the Wonder Years of Growth, whatever. So then 18 to 22 is the same kind of thing. It's like you're becoming an adult, first love, all of those things are happening. So my uncle lived upstate New York. So now I'm back in New York. Okay, I'm not 19 yet. I'm still 18, about 6 months from being 19. And I'm there in New York, and I'm really pissed about being there and everything else. But because I was missing a semester from college, Plus, I had a job where I was the first Black person to work for Gorman's Chinese Theater. That was when a lot of stuff was going on. But the funny thing how I got the job was because I was dating this Chinese guy. I don't know if it was the National Urban League. I don't know what major urban league. I don't know who it was, but they were getting ready to boycott and do something to Gorman's Chinese Theater about never having anybody Black there. So the guy told me about it. I went in to be interviewed, and everybody's kind of like in the room, it's kind of real stiff because there's going to be a Black girl here. And I walk in looking like everything. And they actually exhaled when they saw me. They just totally exhaled because to a lot I know so many people. In New York, I look Puerto Rican. Okay, if I'm in Hawaii, I'm Hawaiian. If I'm in Tahiti, I'm Polynesian. Wherever I am, there's something in all my mixtures that comes out where
you are ethnically ambiguous.
Right. Okay, I like that. I've never used that. So that's the part. So when they saw me, and back then we were fitted to Susie Wong gowns with the slit up the side, the whole bit. So, we went to, what is it called? Costume place where you go and get fitted for the movies.
Western costume.
Exactly. That's where we went. So I'm like this little one. And I hated working in the box office because everyone decided I was from their country. And sometimes they would say, I remember a Pakistani guy, well, if you're not from there, your parents are. They'd get irate because I wasn't from their country. But that's another thing. So I have all of this kind of stuff going on, looking forward to the next semester, and I'm uprooted. So when we get to New York, I have an uncle that lived in Poughkeepsie, New York. So how they kind of mellowed me out was the fact that I missed a semester, but then I'm going upstate to college. So I did a year. It was a good experience, but I knew that, no, I just wanted to move back to New York in the city and get a job and take care of myself because I've always taken care of myself. And that's what I did. So in making that move, my mother really couldn't have anything to do with it because I wasn't right with her. But she was proud. She was just proud about it. And then my father started taking credit because everything I did good, he took credit for. He was like, when he was young, he could draw a person, a portrait, and it would look just like him. And he would do it tiny miniature portraits. So he gave his gift to myself and three of my siblings. So it was innately, but also dad, and also all the mixtures, from the Haitian to the Cherokee to German Jew. I had a grandmother who was German Jew and Cherokee. So it's all the different mixtures. And I think all of that indigenous came through me because this is natural. And so I know I'm going here and there, but I think that kind of, when I got to New York and I'd finished, it was not so long after I had made up my mind that that's what I really wanted to do, that the lawyer saw me always bring my art supplies. And he trusted me, leap of faith, to create something for his apartment. And when I came back, I was really about shy about bringing it back and kind of a little nervous about it. But all my coworkers came around to see it. Everybody up there came to see it. And Dan immediately commissioned me to do a second piece for his apartment. And from there, coworkers commissioned me to do pieces for them. And a lot of times there was something that I didn't even know if I could do. One guy asked me to paint a scene, a landscape, kind of like upstate look. And it had to look like it was getting ready to rain. So I did it. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
It just came out of you. It just came out of you.
I sometimes the next morning when I look at what I'm working on, I'm so damn surprised at what I was able to do. And so every painting like this is a birthing.
So now when do you come back to Los Angeles? Because you come back in the 70s.
Yes, early. Yeah. I often get mixed up what year it was, but let's say 72.
Okay.
Yeah. And just because of a girlfriend I worked with at Gorman's Chinese Theater. Oh, do you remember Gary Stromberg?
No.
PR firm? Okay, well, it was around the time when you were in the radio. Yeah, he was responsible with the Pointer Sisters and all those people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
had a very strong business.
Okay.
And some kind of way, where she lived, she didn't know him, but he lived just doors from her. And a mutual friend said, well, maybe send Synthia to such and such. And that such and such person sent me to Shelter Records, Leon Russell's company. And that's how I got in the record business. I left as an accountant from New York.
So then you came in, you're working at Shelter Records. Where did they put you when you got there?
Briefly as a receptionist, very briefly. And then, ever heard of Dino Aureli? He produced Phoebe Snow's
Oh,
first
okay.
CD.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, well, he was my boss. So he came into me and told him that he wanted me to work with him. So I was only a receptionist maybe a month and a half. And he took me out to Musso Frank's for
Oh
lunch.
my goodness. Musso Franks. Yes. Yes.
It was really kind of funny how it all happened. And so he brought me in. He wanted me to work with him. And that's how I ended up learning. And I learned a lot. I learned so much while I was there.
Was he PR at that time at Shelter Records? Was he in PR? Was he promotions?
He was promotion. Yeah, he was primarily that national promotion manager.
Okay.
That's what he was, Dino. And yeah, so there I am. Do you remember Flippers?
I do. I do.
That was also the president of Shelter Records' other venture.
Oh, wow.
So from Shelter, well, I'm sorry, I went to Disney for a while and worked, and then I ended up at Flippers, opening Flippers.
Well, I remember when it opened. That was such a big deal.
Yeah, and I was like wishing I was the artist that got to do that whole oh God, what's his name? Rousseau? The painting with the
Uh-huh.
animals.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I kind of was wishing, oh God, I was doing that instead of doing what I was doing, membership. But yeah, so we want to get to where did I get back to art?
I think it's important for creatives that are working on their discipline, that are trying to make money from their art, to understand that a successful artist has a day job to afford them to be the artist they want to be, whether that's painting, acting, singing, dancing. Come a long way. So maybe it's not a day job, but has money coming in from another outlet to sponsor them as they go for their dreams. Because I think a lot of times artists think, I'm just going to be an artist. And they don't factor in, they have to pay the rent, they have to eat, they got to pay for their transportation. And I love your story, because what you did was you took information that you were getting from all these day jobs, and you really helped it make you successful as an artist.
In fact, it was what I've done with a lot of colleges and universities over the years is I've gone in and done the business of art.
So now you're gone from working at Grauman's, then you worked as in accounting. You came back and you worked at a record company. Then you went to Flippers. And for people who don't know what Flippers is, it was one of the largest skating rinks in Los Angeles. It was amazing. It must have started in 81, because I was already working at the radio station, and we were doing remotes from there. So I just remember it being so big, and I think I was like 21 at the time.
And we bought in skaters that dance to teach our members from New York. We bought in New York skaters to teach. Yeah.
So you're gleaning the business aspect as you are working these jobs now. So you have these day jobs. When are you doing your art?
Okay. When I was at Shelter, I literally wasn't trying to work my way up, but something was happening that I was. I became assistant general manager. So I had all of these titles. I was in charge of art and advertising, I had so many different labels, but all under, let's say, assistant general manager. So when the phone would ring, and let's say there's 10 calls, probably 4 of those calls were for me. So I was working night and day. I mean, because then I went to some of the evening things, or I helped them put on events at the Roxy or whatever was going on with that too. And then one of the guys that did some photography for me, for us, came in and he asked me, would I consider working at Paramount? for a writer. He told me a little bit about it. And I went in and I met, his name was Sal Gianetta. And I went in and we ended up being, I called him an Italian cowboy hippie. Cowboy boots, hats, all that stuff, but but Italian. Only thing he wanted me to do primarily was fresh ground coffee, Italian, of course, and fresh cream every day. And then he wanted me to read and do my writing because I also write. And then he made it so that he sent me home as soon as he could every day because he didn't like coming to the office to write. He wanted to write at home. He made it so I was probably the only employee that didn't clock in and out at that time, and the only employed woman that didn't have to wear a dress. Okay, so we were this different kind of breed team on a set, all those sets. So what he did, he told me, he said, go home as soon as you can and paint. So I cut my hours from working in the record business down to maybe a quarter of what I used to do. And then he wanted me to go home and paint because he knew that's what I wanted to do. So I was fortunate in having him, so in getting back to it that way, and at the same time having a job that I wasn't even had to be there, that made me go more full-fledged back into painting. And from there, I continued to find what I had to do. There's so many different things so many different kinds of work that I did. Here's one. When I was doing more of the acting, I got to stay home for 6 months off a National McDonald's ad. And I painted the whole time.
I think most artists' journeys are like yours. They're not linear. I mean, you're going different. You start getting into acting.
I started taking acting sometime around when I got away from Paramount. So I would say probably about 74-ish.
And what was that spark that said, you know what? I think I'm gonna try acting. What came to you?
I was doing a little bit of print modeling.
Okay, how did you get into the print?
Honestly, how that goes is photographers is this rated? Can I say anything?
Yes.
With their BS lines.
Yes.
That want to shoot you and do this and do whatever. But 9 times out of 10, that was nothing but a come on. But some of those were real people. Some of those are real people. And then I met an artist here. God, he was older than my father. He's probably about 35 years older than me, who was self-taught. So he actually, in that modeling stuff, he also painted me a few times.
Oh, wow.
So I'd been that kind of model. I'd been some brand models.
Is he the painter who taught you about the eyes?
Yeah. So see, I met him shortly after I got back. I mean, to LA from New York. So there are people around me, but the acting, I have to say, is something I just decided, why don't I try this? I think this would be, and it ended up being very good for me.
And your first acting class?
Oh, my teacher was Glenn Turman. Yeah, that was my main teacher. So I did theater acting classes.
Now, was this at Inner City Cultural Center?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, back in the 70s, Inner City Cultural Center was the place for artists, actors of color, where you could do plays. There were plays going on all the time. Mr. Jackson was in charge of Inner City Culture Center. Then Cliff Rockmore was one of the directors. Because when I came to Los Angeles from New York in 78, and my first play was at Inner City, and I saw that your first professional art exhibit was at Inner City.
Right. Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah. So you're now at Inner City studying with Glenn Turman.
Yeah, and I'm taking dance, jazz, and a little while Catherine Dunham technique. But my jazz were Winston Hemsley, all New York dancers. That was when they weren't working, they taught. And when Glenn went off to do a play, other actors would take his place. So the one that I enjoyed, the couple of classes I had with him was Ron Glass. That was really, we became good friends too. But so it was this whole other thing. But still, who I really was a painter. I was thinking that this was something I would enjoy acting. I didn't want a series. I didn't want a regular job acting. I wanted a job that I could do and paint. You know, ideally, when I lived on Tamage, I should have worked at ABC Studios and go home and walk back right back down the street and paint it, right?
So you got yourself an agent at that time?
Two different things happen. This is totally against what you're supposed to do. But this actor guy that I met felt that I would really get a job. He felt I should get a job right away. All right. And there was a couple of people. Let me think about that. Okay, but let's first go with him. So he said, Synthia, I want you to let me take you over here. I just want you to go in and leave a photo or something of yourself. And I'm trying to remember what her name is. She was from the theater out of New York. And then she had a McClendon.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I remember the McClendon, one of the first Black agencies in Los Angeles for talent.
Yeah. So I went in and I did what he said, totally, no appointment, no anything. And she kind of like took me on. So at least on my photos and stuff, I could put Ernestine McClendon, whatever. Did I ever get a job from that? I don't think I did, but I had an agent. And then I had another agent later, and I used to have this nickname for her, but I can't remember what her name is. Another first Black agent here. She was a mess because I was at where was I, at Paramount? No, not at Paramount. I can't remember where I was, but maybe Warner Brothers. I took on this when Fantasy Island first came out. I went there, I worked for a little while as an extra. And I was there, and this first time I got paid for dancing, which I really wasn't dancing, I was just swaying back. It was one of those voodoo things. And and Ernie Hudson was the voodoo priest.
Oh,
That's
my
back when he
goodness.
used to have his hair shaved. Me and a friend of mine from inner city were there doing our little swaying stuff. And this agent, I wish I could remember her name. She looked at me on this lot, and she's going like, "What are you doing here? Don't you have some man who can take care of you?"
Oh, no.
I was like, "Oh, whoa." So I worked for, well, definitely I don't do being taken care of. But I remember that stuck. That took her down so many notches to me. Here's a Black woman telling a young Black
Black
woman.
on Black crime.
Right.
Black on Black crime.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was horrible. God, I'm sorry. I got to get away from her name because I so want to tell you who it was.
Here's what's wonderful is you don't remember her name.
And that must be the reason.
Yeah, I just want to say that is a wonderful thing that you have blocked her name because people like that, we don't want to give too much attention.
No.
But go ahead.
I had a chance. Let me see. I auditioned a lot, but one of the guys who really was very helpful, his name was Eddie Smith.
Okay.
He started the Black Stuntman Guild. Yeah, he passed away some time ago, but he was one that started it. And so I worked with different people. I don't even know why. Well, I was around people. I was around people in entertainment. I wasn't looking to become an entertainer, but I was around a lot of.
Right. You were in community. That was your community.
Yeah, my community, but also the acting community I was around too before I even started taking acting. And oh God. All right. So here we go. Let me think. So I felt like this. The ideal acting thing for me would have been commercial acting. Just do commercials. Because what actor doesn't want a full-time gig? I didn't want that. I wanted to paint. And this was helping me paint.
So now you go from McDonald's commercial, which gave you at that time, because today commercials don't give that kind of money.
No,
most of the time now it's pittance. But back then, you were able to do a commercial and be able to paint for 6 months.
Yes, and it was national. That helped for the national. Oh, there was a film that originally was called MMA, and they changed it for Thriller or whatever, but it's still around. Black Sisters Revenge. So I'm trying to remember why I knew the assistant director. I can't tell you why. Something else I did before then. I ended up with that job, but again, it was like the young lady that played my sister and I It was like Compton kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But we were the light skinned, supposedly, the pretty ones or the uppity ones or whatever. But it was more like a gang thing. But gang things back then were nothing like they were now. They're not running around shooting each other. They might have a chain or they might, almost like West Side Story kind of business. But that film continuously plays,
Wow.
even on Turner Classic Movies. Um,
Wow.
I still always go like my best work in it was out of it, but it was still there. People still like that. Like that, it's in the same arena as Cooley High and Sparkle. So I remember once going to a museum and they played those three together.
Wow.
Yeah, so it has its cult following
Uh-huh.
or whatever.
Hmm.
So that's the one I wasn't cut out enough that at least you see me enough that I did do something. And I always played teenagers, 15 to 17. And I was like 24 to 28, something like that. But all I'm doing all this time is I'm learning. I'm learning all kinds of things that you might feel shy about doing, but then you lose the shyness because of acting, like even being on stage or being in a situation where you have to do something that you really feel embarrassed about, like, playing a young teenager and your boyfriend's kissing you and all this, that kind of corny
Hmm.
stuff. But still, it takes you to another place. It,
Hmm.
it gives you another kind of self-esteem. That's what I think of it as. That's what I think of it as.
So you're acting now. You're at Inner City Cultural Center. What was the catalyst for you to have your very own exhibit, art exhibit?
I really wanted to do something there once again. I even had I wrote a lot of poetry early on. And even in the Stormy Weather Cafe, I had a show where they did my reading of my poetry and all that. So I had another thing I did there. I never was in a play there, but someone told me that I could. And I had to ask. I must have asked. Because even when I was at Disney and I was doing educational media, right after my money ran out for my national McDonald's ad, I spoke to some people and found out that if you work there, you could have exhibitions there. So I had two exhibits in an animation building at Disney in Burbank, the old one in Buena Vista. And I had a chance to talk to a lawyer, a copyright lawyer there who just was across from where my exhibit was. And he gave me pointers on copyright and how not to be infringed. And they let me use all their materials. I was doing painting wild domestic animals. So I could take anything from there. They tried to open the doors to recruit me to become an animator. And I went and I interviewed a couple of people that worked there that were in animation of color and other people too.
Were there a lot of people of color?
No, very few. And so what happened was I said, well, let me see what these animators do, how they deal with if they're doing this like 8 to 5. And none of them painted anymore. So that cinched it because I was always interested in animation because that would have been because I'd love to watch animated films, but I was not willing to lose my identity behind Disney over it or clock in and out to paint. So I went through that little period and I decided not. And I didn't want to feel like I was copping out. So I started doing a sketch thing because that's what they wanted to see. And it would have been so boring because I was supposed to do, this is Fox and the Hound was the animated feature bit back then. So I was going to animate the drawings, quick drawings of like the fox jumping over the fence and then the next frame and the next frame. That's the kind of work I was going to do. If they had asked me to be a cell painter, which meant that you already had on something a cell like plastic, but not plastic material. And already, let's say the drawing or the ink is on there and you apply the colors. I would have liked doing that for a while, but no. But it still was, you gave it up to Disney. And I was already on my path. This is how I call it. The left side of the brain takes care of the right. So I learned accounting. All the jobs I had, I learned on the job. So I learned accounting. And I was even in New York, other than working there as an account receivables clerk, then I went and worked I'm doing this because I can't remember the name of it, but it was a drug program. I can't remember the name of it. It was the most popular. It was the one that was working in New York. I became their payroll clerk. So I learned payroll completely. I was in an exhibit in 80 in Paris, a group show. And when I came back, it was time for me to get another job to go for a while. So I ended up going to a company called Micro Z. And this was when computer software was this big. Remember those big
Oh
old
yeah,
things
the
with the
floppy
curve?
disk, those
Yeah,
big old floppy disks.
they weren't
Yes.
floppy anymore, they were the giant discs. Yeah, I learned how to do accounting on computer. So I worked for them for 3 of their offices out of the main office. So I learned that. I learned the other side of payroll. So I had another bright idea. Why don't I just and I was also commissioned to do work there. I painted the president. I painted his assistant's grandchild. I was doing more realistic stuff then. And so then I looked at how payroll back then is done. You can't get away with it now, but you can actually have no taxes taken out of your tax thing if you can qualify for it. And then it would mean that later you have to pay. It's almost like being an independent contractor. But what I did was I saved all of that tax money so that I could take off a few weeks straight and just stay home and paint. So then once you do that, it's kind of hard to come back. So at times I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. But then I got another bright idea, which was good. And I had a lot of good clients. I had a 10-year tax business. So I did more creatives taxes, but I also had doctors and lawyers. One actor the year before had to pay something in taxes that was still owed, something like $10,000. And when he came to me and I did his taxes, I got him $10,000 that next year. That's how concentrated I get into what I'm doing. I always try to do my damnedest for whoever I'm working with or for, or whatever I'm doing. So that made me like this person that they hated to see go. But it was the early 90s and I started getting work. I started getting, how can I put that? I started in 1989, I think it was. I got my first corporative commission for Seagram's. So that catapulted me to another level of an artist. And it got so much publicity all over the nation. And it gave me a beautiful show on Park Avenue. It was an incredible experience. And from there, I started getting more work.
When did you transfer into abstract art? Because you talked about you were doing more realistic, more animals, more.
Actually, I did abstract paintings in the beginning. See, the work I do now is my own style. It really doesn't have a title. Only title that can be seen in some of my work is some of the Impressionists because of the tiny. You see this? And you see the water? That's like 20 zero brush to make all the little tiny strokes in the water. So if you think of the Impressionists, it's another way, but it's not Monet. It's not the way he painted, but still it's that intricate stuff. And I did love the French Impressionists. So you might be able to look at one of my paintings and say, oh, that looks like that. Then other people will look at it and they'll see the Caribbean side of it. But then I do a lot of Caribbean work as well. Like my grandfather, who I didn't know, was Haitian. So some of that DNA pops out and people say, oh, that looks like, it comes out. The Native American comes out. If you look back here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this is indigenous. This is indigenous grandmothers. Have you heard of them? Oh, well, they're an organization, and they began with 12 women, all grandmothers from all over the world.
Wow.
They were either shamans, they were healers, they were educators. They were very high in wherever they were, and very spiritual. And they got together to try to make the world better, to make people better, to make the world a better place. And they even got together with Dalai Lamas. So they even experienced that. So when a friend of mine told me about them, I researched them. And from the first 12, I based all of the women that are in there on that in that painting, the first 12. Yeah. But they're still around. It's National Council of Indigenous Grandmothers. something like that. You could find them. Yeah.
When you were commissioned for Seagram's, was that when you could start moving right to your art?
You know, isn't it cute? Let me tell you something about the PR, being in PR. Even when I was acting, I would send things to uh, Variety and Hollywood Reporter. I signed with someone new. I did something. I would send them press releases on myself. So whenever I had a job, I that was something, I would send out things to let people know in case they didn't know. When I did Terry McMillan's book, well, she actually was an existing piece. When that was used on the cover for Waiting to Sell, what I did is I sat down and sent out PR packages to other publishers and let them know I was available. I ended up doing, well, Iana Van Sant's Acts of Faith is a piece of mine too. It's sort of like you put out to universe and then it comes, if it's going to come.
Importance of artists doing their own PR, because you talking about when you did acting stuff, you would send it out to Variety and stuff. And that's what I learned from working in the record business, because I worked at Casablanca Records. When I came to Los Angeles, I worked for Casablanca Records, and we were in the R&B department, which meant we did everything. We were like Shelter Records. We did everything in that little office. We did the PR, we did the publicity, the promotion, and the marketing. So, and we did all of it. It was a team of two, and so learning how to do that. And so what I learned from there was to send out press releases to the Hollywood Reporter, the Daily Variety, all that stuff. And what I've come to learn over the years is, as an artist, as an actor, you have to do that for yourself. We assume people get awards because someone sees your work. No, there's a campaign going on to promote your work. It's not magical. There's nothing magical. And what I love about your story is that you've been able to take what you learned at those day jobs and incorporate them into your art to be you, the CEO of your company, are the CEO, you're the publicity department, you're the promotion department, you're the marketing department. And how that has really served you to be an international artist, because you're not just a Black artist, you are international. You are badass. Let me just say this, you are badass. And what I want people who are listening to this, watching this, to understand is that as a Black woman, you came from a time when we were just coming into the civil rights and the women's rights, and Black women were at the bottom of the totem pole, and we've come back to that. We've come full circle where they're trying to take away all of our rights as women of color. They're trying to strip us so we have no rights, no say, no jobs. I mean, we are now in a place, not to be political, but just where we are in history, we are at a place where they're trying to diminish us. Joblessness right now is incredibly high for Black people. We haven't had that in a long time. And so what you have been doing is really amazing, without a chip on your shoulder. Throughout this whole conversation, I never heard you once talk about Angela Davis and putting up the sign, but that you operated as an artist, but understanding business. So I have to operate in this way. What was it that made you decide, I think I'm going to teach business to artists at colleges? And you came up with a book.
You know, I know what I actually did was I decided to share my experience when I started going to the colleges and universities. And I had the privilege of working at a lot of HBCUs, but I worked at from Dartmouth, and I can't even name all the places I've been, all the other ones as well. But I kept hearing the cry for that. And whatever art students I was around or with, or did a masterclass, whatever I did with them, it was really, that was what was lacking. Because once you graduate from college and you have all these diplomas and all these certificates, Now, what do you do next? You know, so I decided I would share my experiences, and I did it in a book of how I came up with things to do that you didn't have to have a gallery. You know, you definitely didn't have to have a PR person or an agent, although I've gone through having those as well. And that was just almost being taken advantage of is what they primarily did, just like galleries. And you've got to, and how you're taught is that you're not good enough until you've been in a gallery, until you, or a museum, or someone did something, or somebody has your work of note. And that's not necessarily so. There's so many ways of doing it and giving at the same time. This particular commission I'm going to start in 1990, 91, a friend of mine started the Los Angeles Women's Foundation. And had painted this multicultural painting of women with strength. And I offered it to them to use. You know, I didn't give it to them. I gave them reproduction rights to use it as a banner for who they are, and for people to be able to buy them and put them up in their homes to encourage them. And that's when I started my nonprofit. And I started nonprofit organizations, special little packet for them of what I can do for what prices, less prices, and what they can do to generate more money from it, and actually come out really with a lot of money from selling prints. One organization, the YWCA of Greater Los Angeles, even had umbrellas out for a while with my painting on it. But there's so many ways. And so I was just walking on one of my walks, and I came back and said, that's what I want to do. Let me do that. So here it is, how many years later, and I'm still doing that. I never know where it's coming from.
What gave you the impetus to say, I will license this stuff? Because, that's very, that's business on a whole nother level to say, you know what, I can do this. Because I'm assuming, and please correct me, I'm assuming that as an artist, you have had so many people want your stuff for free, especially nonprofits. They come and, well, we don't have the money, but can you do this? We don't have the money, but can you do this? And so for you to go, how can I make this a win-win? I love your brain process of going, wait a minute, how can we make this viable for both of us?
For both of us, yeah. Well, firstly, I donated a lot of limited edition prints, those kinds of things. I remember one of the first organizations was United Negro College Fund. And here's what happens sometimes. I donated some prints to United Negro College Fund. So some of the people that came to whatever that event was, this probably was one of their galas, happened to be the guy from Seagram's who got the commission for me, my first corporate, because they found my art there. So it's okay and it's good to do something, but it's not giving away. Like so many artists, too many artists, I feel, give their art away. If it's a celebrity, oh, I painted you, I'm giving you this. That's not giving you anything because they didn't buy it. So it's not in their collection. You gave it to them. And I remember one young man that used to be one of my tax clients, that he was bragging about how much, and he gave something to Muhammad Ali, and he had a wonderful talent. And he told me, but he still didn't get anything out of it. Muhammad Ali took him into the room with all the paintings that people had given him. How would that make you feel? You're nothing special. You're just another one. Give me a painting of me. And maybe he didn't intend it that way, but that's what I would have gotten from it. But there's some people that just think that's what they need to do. It's got to be some big person, some celebrity that owns it, and then everybody's going to want it. That's not clearly the way to do it at all. So you worked. I don't even know if they even made prints of their own work. They just gave the whole painting away. So who knows where that is now?
Where did the idea for you to do of your work, to say, I'm going to create this piece, then I'm going to make reproductions of it, do so many reproductions of one painting, and then put it out? Where did that idea come to you from?
Well, I looked at other painters, and one that was ended up being a friend of mine that we went to the same high school, but she was a lower class, was Barnett Honeywood. And one of the ways she made her money was that she always made reproductions of her work. I don't remember very many limited editions that she ever did. She normally did open editions. So her work, that same print could sell forever. I felt like to make it even more value to make it limited edition. I know she did some, but she did mostly open. To make it limited editions. So what happens with that is that you continually can make money. Licensing, it came up for me thinking of licensing might have had something to do with someone wanting to license something of mine. I was not totally aware of how many things you can do in licensing. So I've been able to make a lot of income. I call it while you sleep income. If something is licensed. So that all the book covers I've done were licensing, or they commissioned me to do it. So they paid me to use it.
So what's the difference between a commission and a license?
A licensing is an existing piece of art that someone wants to license to use it. But the only situation that wasn't quite like that would be, there's two, but one in particular, Barnes and Noble asked me to paint a painting for the second year that they were going to use my work for Black History Month. So I created another one, which was multicultural, because that's mostly my theme, depending on what I'm doing. And they created it, they put it on tote bags, they put it on tumblers, they put it on blank books, all that kind of stuff. And that was a licensing agreement because they didn't buy the painting, but I created the painting for them to license. Okay. And they're the only company or business in the world that pays their artists up front. So you have this many pieces, and they always, both years, they sold out before the end of Black History Month, but they pay you your royalties up front. So if this many pieces are being done, that's the check that you're going to get. And you're not like going like, oh, quarterly, maybe I'll get it, maybe I'll get something. You know, they were incredible. So definitely I wanted to do something, even if I had to paint it myself for the second year. Yeah. And you got it within maybe a month of the signing. So that was great. So I'm sorry. So licensing is usually that way. Existing art is licensed.
And then a commission
It's like what I'm doing now. It's a nonprofit organization. There's something they want me to do, but it's all up to me what it's going to be. And then I explained to them how much money they could make if we just take $2,500 and create a limited edition print. And I did the numbers because of the accounting in me, because if somebody sees something, and I'm going to tell you, with just a limited edition print of 1,000, been broken up, because part of it will be an artist proofs, which are worth twice as much as a limited edition. And there'll be some, I'm going to be a little drawing on the bottom, remarques, that's even worth more than an artist proof. They stand to make, if they sell that out, $300,000. But they have to put somebody on it to do that. You know, the one I'm working with now, they've got it down. They can't wait. They haven't even seen it. They've made all the arrangements for everything that's going to happen already. But they've got it. And then I offered them something else, which I don't make any money out of, but this is my contribution to them. It's not costing me anything to do it. I gave them another thing. I said, well, limited edition G clays on canvas. I'll give you one size that I was going to release them in, and you could have those 300. But then you're looking at, if someone bought an 18 by 24 G clay, that's about $650. So if you put all of that money together, if they do their work, they can make $500,000. It's amazing what it can do, and that warms my heart too. Did I tell you the story about the Sisters of Providence?
No, but I did hear about it, and you can share it again because I think it is phenomenal.
Well, that one really took me. It took me because I was paid to create a painting for someone that commissioned me to do something for another hospital, Glendale Memorial. Same guys, Arnie. And so I created it for them. And then when he worked with Sisters of Providence Foundation, he asked me to create another painting, and he was keeping the painting for himself. He kept it for years. Now he donated it to one of their places in Seattle. So here are these prints. They're 18 by 24. They weren't the best reproduction because I didn't get a chance to color proof them, but they were still, if someone didn't see the original, they were still wonderful. And one 18 by 24 simply framed, but it was an artist proof. This man stood in Seattle at their gala and auctioned it off. And that one piece that was worth retail value, maybe 2,000, went for $50,000. Okay. So there are 9 left of the artist proof. So he decided on his own recognizance that I'm going to do this. How about if anyone in the audience would like one of the other artist proofs? And everybody's hand was raised and they were bidding, bidding, bidding. At the end of 20 minutes to a half hour tops, we had $126,000. And someone in that audience, company, business, matched it. And $252,000 went to Chile for their mission that had just had an earthquake and burnt down to serve to rebuild that. So I was on the stage with one of the Sisters of Providence nuns. They don't do habits, they just have a pin. Plus she was drinking her wine. She was funny. She was drinking me under the table. So we're sitting on the stage together. And literally, I know my mouth must have fell open, but it was the biggest shock, but it was the most wonderful shock in the world to see that. No one has topped that in any auction of my work to date. But if that's only happens once in a lifetime, that's enough to feel valued of what you can do.
You'll see it again in your lifetime, even double, at least double. We'll claim at least double. Yes, it's time. It's time now. It's time for it to come to fruition. So you're doing these works. You figured out how to license it. You have entered into the space of having your work on books, having your work on children's books. And then you got your work on a stamp, which has sold over 300 million copies of that stamp, the Kwanzaa stamp.
So the stamp, we'll go to the stamp. A good little New York girl does not give out her phone number. And on her address, it would be maybe her first initial and last name. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we work.
Mm-hmm.
So I get somebody calling me on my phone, my personal phone at home. And I'm really kind of wondering what this is about, but I listened to her and I didn't ask her then, but I found out later that they got my number through another book company that had actually commissioned a piece for a Kwanzaa book. Okay. And so now years later, I found out how that happened. But it was just a call. And it was sort of like asking me if I would be interested in creating the first Kwanzaa stamp, And I remember just a year before that, a greeting card company had approached me and I had done Kwanzaa cards for them. So I was familiar with it. I got in touch with Karanga's organization. They sent me some research information. So I already knew. And I had already wrote my book for children on the gifts of Kwanzaa. So I already had a children's books out on Kwanzaa. And I went like, okay. But like the good PR promotion person, after that call, and I said yes, I sent them a PR package on me. And so the lady got back to me, because I didn't mean it as tooting my horn at all. But she called me back and asked me if I had time to do it. But I really want to do it after she read all the stuff that I had done. And that's how that came about. But in that same month, the Girl Scouts of the USA had gotten in touch with me about doing I can't remember what year it was. It was an anniversary of something. And in that same year, I did pieces for both those, the U.S. Postal Service and also Girl Scouts of America. So it's sort of like things get out. And as I said, I always follow up, because some people know me for my children's books that I've written or I've created the paintings for. Some people know me for the stamp. Some people know me for Terry McMillan's book, like the cover. That's the only thing I've ever done. And then for others know me as a painter.
You're not just a painter, but you're an educator, you're an author, you are a solopreneur, and you are a powerhouse. And you are an artist who has touched different genres, you know, different mediums. You've written a song. You are an artist, not to be put in a box. And I love that. I love that just in you talking about taking walks on the beach early in the morning to see the sunrise, to hear the birds, and to hear nature already is putting you in touch with the creator. I'm a believer that God is the big creator. We are the little creators. If we are obedient and we are taking direction, then he can flow through us in whatever medium it is that we're using. Because every now and then, I always hear artists talking about, be it Prince or be it Michael Jackson. My favorite Michael Jackson story is when he said, yeah, sometimes I get song ideas in the middle of the night. And when I get them, I jump up and do it because I don't want God to give it to Prince. That if we are in tune, if we're sensitive, that the divine flows through us.
No, it doesn't matter what, because if this is the thing that I feel is that if you're given a gift, you need to use it. And secondly, you have to take responsibility for the gift. So if you can help other people through your gift, that's one of the responsibilities. It's not just that you can do it so you don't have to care about nobody else because I'm bad. You know, it's about the responsibility that comes with it. And I hate to see people waste it when they have a talent, and they waste it because this can be so disappointing. My favorite Kwanzaa principle is self-determination. I'm not a person that celebrates Kwanzaa, you know, but I love some of the principles, and what it's really about is self-esteem and building communities, that sort of thing. But my favorite is self-determination. So we could call it being stubborn, but that's part of it too, and being stubborn in a nice way.
Well, I want to talk about the responsibility of an artist and the self-determination, because I think that they go together. I think, you know, that you realized at an early age that God had given you a gift to paint. You didn't go to school for it. It wasn't, you know, you self-taught yourself.
And I'm so glad I never did, because I wouldn't be painting the way I paint. I had a girlfriend that was an incredible artist, and she took art. I mean, but the art teachers were so inconsiderate. I don't think it should be a grade. Were so inconsiderate that they would put right on top of the painting or whatever, your grade. She got an A- on one. The teacher put it right on top of the painting. She never did anything with art. I have one artist friend that went on, that even though he took art, he went on and did what he did, but he was always could hear the professors about this color shouldn't be with that color and all that. And he told me, and he's incredible, and he does extremely well. But he told me one time, he said, Synthia, that you inspired me to use colors wherever I want to use them, because he never did, because they said you can't, you know. So I'm glad I didn't get any of the restrictions, and that the creative juices could just flow as they will. Okay, I always would use this in class too. There's so many painters. What grade would you give Picasso? If you were a teacher, I think he would be failing class. Okay, what side of the face, eye coming out of it, you know? So I mean, really, but that doesn't take from the part that for many was an incredible painter, you know. So I'm not knocking him for that, but I'm just saying, what would you give? What would you give all the innovators? Everybody's not supposed to grow up and do exactly the same thing.
Art isn't about being a cookie cutter. It's about being individual. So if you can unpack the responsibility of an artist, what does that look like to you?
I think the initial thing is very simple, is that you have the ability, create. Don't just leave it dormant. Don't do anything. Just go around not do anything about it when it's like ready to burst out of you because you're trying to ignore it. And sometimes that's because people told you you couldn't make it as an artist. You, you can never make money. Like we were talking about earlier, just get another job and still you're able to do it. So I think if you have a talent, you should use it. Some kind of way. If you don't want to go all out, but you've got to use it. You can't ignore it. So to me, that's one responsibility. The second responsibility I feel is to share it, because you could have all these paintings and no one saw them, but you release them, your creativity, but you've got to go to the next step and share them. Even if you don't want to sell them, go to the next step and share them. And it's like being amazed at what you can do, even though you might not have been aware of it as an intent. And something I learned probably in the early 90s really amazed me was that my paintings heal. And the grandmother that told me about it had her grandson had Down syndrome. And she told me one day, Synthia, the only place that he doesn't cry is in the room where your art is in our house. So that's huge, you know. So that's what I'm saying, because if you're sharing it, you don't know what you're doing for someone else. Majority of people tell me that my art is uplifting to them. It makes them feel good. And I've heard people that I've met that have been in waiting rooms in hospitals where my art is and told me how it made them feel better to get through the experience.
Well, I will tell you that I had a piece of your art hanging in my living room. I have bought it at I don't know, art store, or I don't know where I got this poster from, but it hung in my living room for 10 years. And every time I looked at that picture or that painting, it filled me with joy. Your work, when I look at your work, it fills me with joy. And the only other artist that I know, I mean, I've seen, I love going to the museum and looking at art, but the only other person that I know that when I look at their art fills me with joy is Faith Rangel. Someone gifted me a book of hers about an artist gifted me a book of hers. A dear friend of mine, Susan Hill, who was an artist who taught art in the correctional facilities.
Okay.
And she gifted me that book because of the fact that she was from New York. But when I would see her book, it made me joyful. I just connected in a visceral way. You can see art and it's cerebral and you think about it, but she was the first person that I saw the art and it touched my inner child. When I look at your work, it touches my inner child. It makes me joyful and it makes me feel creative, gives that back to me. You see something and mirrors back to you something. And that does that for me.
Okay, like one of my friends in New York used to say, if you said something nice to her, you meant it. And she would just say, echo back. Have you heard that one?
Yes.
Yes. And to me, that's sort of like almost like mirroring back.
Yes.
But that came to mind because of that. I thought it was always so sweet when she said it.
Yeah. And your colors, and your colors are so I'm a vibrant person. I mean, I have my whole apartment is colors. My daughter will tell you that when she was little, I would paint the walls maybe every few months some bright color. She would get up and it was a new color, but it was bright. My apartment is bright. My landlord came in one day with the handyman. He says, "Oh my God, this is a very colorful place." I was like, "Yeah, we can't be having beige. We can't have beige.
No. No eggshell.
No, none of that dingy stuff. Your colors reflect back to me my DNA, my Caribbean side, because I am loud. When I was a kid, this is how bad colors were for me, how much I love colors. I remember being, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years old, going to a cemetery. A kid that we knew had passed away. And I had a Astrobite lemon top with chartreuse pants. And they kept me in the car. I could not get out. And so for me, colors are their life. Bright colors are life.
Well, you know what? I take it to another level with them because when you look at one of my paintings, the acrylic, a lot of them are acrylic, but when you look at the water or the trees, whatever, that's when I use the oil. You see more oil or texture in hair if I'm doing braids or whatever I'm doing. But with the acrylic paint that dries quickly, I use anywhere from 6 to sometimes even 10 coats of paint on each area. So that's one of the reasons why it kind of like pops off the canvas, because it's just, in fact, I think one of the books I did for children, they had to, one of my editors had me explain what my process was, because everyone was thinking that I was cutouts like Matisse, that I was had cut out and made a collage rather than painted.
How long, when it dries, do you go back to add the next coat of paint?
Well, normally I'll take like my bottle of paint. I'm looking around to see to show you on the Liquitex. You see this?
Yes.
Okay. So that's my teal color that I use often. If I'm painting and everything, I've done the other painting, meaning that it's all painted one coat already. I usually just take the next day or whatever day, I start lining my little colors up and I put the next coat, depending on when I'm painting again. So it generally has at least a day or so. I don't just do it like that. I line them up like little trains, in little compartments. And I go, okay, now I've got the teal. And then I put it behind and I go, this one.
And when do you decide that you're going to add oil to your acrylics?
How I know that is that this piece, I know you can't see it well, but this is older piece that I just went back to between what I was doing, because I didn't get a chance to get back to this. But in Guyana is the seawall. And that was it was actually the second place I ever went out of the country to, but it was the first country that I had been to that particularly thought I was Guyanese coming home for Fête. So, and the mixtures there are African, Chinese, and East Indian. So they just thought I was from there, you know. And it's the first time that I felt a lot of things, because it was run by Black people. Okay, Black people, East Indian, Chinese. That was the latter. Okay, so many Black people had their own businesses. I mean, their own companies, their own banks. So that's another way that elevated the way I would ever feel about myself, even though I was never way down here. But that just elevated how I felt. I felt so embraced. Over the years, the only makeup I use now is a little bit of red lipstick. But back then, I would always put like a little eyeliner. Not a big deal, but when I was there, I stopped wearing eyeliner. I just felt beautiful all kinds of different ways because I was in that country and it felt like it could be my country. And sometimes when I'm in New York, people think I'm okay, here we go, another one. She's Guyanese. You know. And one person was really funny. Asked one of my Guyanese girlfriends, how's your Chinese friend doing? Mm-hmm. Anyway, but back to this. So this is the wall. I know you can't see it well.
I see part of it, yes.
Well, you see the rocks?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's the rocks between the wall, which keeps the water from coming in since it's under sea level, below sea level. So this is a area all around that country that people walk or they do whatever. There's a main road. And I saw a photograph about 5 years ago, because I was trying to find something I wanted to paint because I haven't really dealt with Guyana. And this is going to be a sunset. So that first coat of paint over there is like light blue violet. Over that's going to be kinds of blues. It's going to be oranges. It's going to be all kinds of things to be a sunset. And then that sunset is going to be reflected in the oil. Now, the way I knew this, because I know I paint, all of this is more coats of paint because it's acrylic. But I knew that I wanted to do the ocean. So I went and did that just recently. And that takes a long time to dry. So that's drying. And then I'm going to go back and splash the sky that it looks like really like a sunset. And that's going to be oil. So I knew that my underpainting should be acrylic. So they're always separate. They're separate areas. You're right.
So You talking about the painting of Guyana reminds me of you giving yourself birthday trips where you go to different places all over the world. And as I was listening to you say that, what came to me was what great self-care. You give yourself a lot of self-care because, I mean, it takes a lot to say, oh, for my birthday, I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to go here to a country I've never been, and I've never been there, but I'm going now. And that by going to these places, that allowed you to create art. And so when did you decide? Because I think this is important for artists to start doing self-care. When was it that you decided, okay, I'm going to take my miles and I'm going somewhere out of the country? When did that happen for you?
The first time I was out of the country was I was living in New York. I think I was 20 or 21. And so my initiation is that I went with a Guyanese girlfriend of mine and her family to Guyana. But we first went to Barbados because she had family there too. So there I got to be I always loved the beach. So I got to be on the beach, and you can even walk into the beach if you wanted to at night, but be careful, you don't get lost. But the water was warm. I remember all of that, and I remember being there and how exhilarating it felt to go to another country. And so when we spent that, what we did at work, because she worked with me, is we remember Christmas clubs or something?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So
you
we
saved your money for that Christmas club. Yes, I remember that.
That year, used that money to go to Guyana with them who were going back to see their family and stuff. So I had a more privileged being there, meaning that I wasn't treated as a tourist, except everyone wanted to feed me. I came back with 20 pounds. I mean, you get up for breakfast. Breakfast is real ham back when I used to eat it. It's like dinner and breakfast. Mm-hmm. And then you have lunch, and then you have dinner, and then if you go out, you stop at some restaurant and eat again, especially during Fete season. And so I was a new kid. You got to taste this. That's the only way I felt like a tourist. But other than that, I just felt like I was from there.
When did you start doing those regular trips for yourself, just going places?
Soon after that is when I moved back here to LA. In the very beginning that I was here the first few years, I wasn't doing it at all. I think I really started little things I would do, but I think I really started in the early 90s. A lot of the trips I've gone on by myself, or there's been trips, didn't remember, well, you're not supposed to remember it, but in 1980, I went to Paris, so I was there for a while. One of my friends went, but then I spent about a week on my own there. I'd always dreamed of it. So I had mapped out where I was going to go to Aix-en-Provence, and I was going to Marseille, and that's where I had my first bouillabaisse. All of these, I'm just romantic at heart, even with travel. So that started, and then it was a way that it just didn't stop. In the 80s, but by the 90s, I was going. And when I finally was making enough money to go more frequently, I haven't gone for a while, but more frequently, every year I went. And after my Kwanzaa stamp, I had to leave this country because everybody wanted me to do something for Kwanzaa. I called myself Queen Kwanzaa. It was always something else they wanted me to do. So, but that didn't hurt me because it was like when people were off, I was somewhere. My favorite place is Tahiti, the island of Moorea. And I've been there 5 times. And then I had to cut it out. And I finally went to Fiji. I said I have to leave my other people alone. Let me go to the Fiji.
What's the difference between Tahiti and Fiji in your eyes?
Well, Tahiti is prettier. Depends on what part of the island you're on. The water is not all that colors of teal. It's kind of mixed in with the like Atlantic looking water, Pacific Ocean, but it's still not the clear, beautiful Caribbean, or like I said, Polynesian water that you normally see. But the thing is, everyone there, the people that are there, they didn't come in as slaves. They were just Black people migrating. And so everyone there is all shades of brown with afros. but they have afros because that's the way they wear their hair. They're not trying to. So, so to see, I went with a girlfriend of mine there. So to see two brown women from America, we got extra special treatment just because we weren't all the white people that are normally there, right? That's why I did it. I also did it because I got so attached to the island. I even took my mother there, and it's in Maria, and she fell in love. She never had so much fun in her life. And they adopted her there. They had a special drink they gave her every night. They all called her mama, so it was real sweet. But I had to break myself. Cynthia said, you got to go see something else. And that's why I went to Fiji. That's why I went to Fiji. But still, those are primarily frequent flyer miles and the miles that I used to work when I was going to all the colleges and universities regularly. Miles. I'm a million miler. They gave me a card about 8 years ago. American Airlines gave me my card, a million miler. But those were mostly, I went to Italy off freaking flyer in first class.
Wow.
So it's like just using something. It's not that. I feel like I'm painting rich. I'm rich with art. I feel rich for the things that I'm doing.
Did you start setting goals as a young person, or is that something that you've done in your life?
You know
or
what? I've never been much of a goal setter, but at the same times I had goals. Even from seeing Moulin Rouge, I had goals, even that way. But I didn't set real time limits on things. Like what I'm getting ready to do now, which I've done anyway, but I created this other thing I'm doing. That's why I have my new laptop. I call it virtual offerings. Okay. So instead of going to all the universities and colleges and wherever that I used to go flying, I want to do some of those from home. And I've done them before, but I want to do it as more conscious about doing them. So to me, that would be a goal, is to build that up. So I've gotten in touch with a lot of my colleges and universities that I've worked with. And I believe right now would be a good time because no one generally has the extra money. So my kind of spiel would be that you don't have to pay for me to travel. You don't have to pay the hotels, per diems. You don't have to do any of that. So as some basic fees, being very conscious of what's going on, I can do it right here.
your business sense just keeps showing up and showing up and showing up. You really have the balance.
Here's something funny. Here's something funny. I can't remember what year that was. I think it was in the early 90s. I received this Entrepreneur of the Year. I'm going like, and I literally, when I accepted, it was from so many organizations. It was from one Black organization, but also AT&T Black employees, their special union that they had. But it was also defense, what is it? The something defense fund.
Yes, the Defense League Fund. I
You
think
know which what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it was from that combination. And when I was told I was going to receive this honor, I literally had to re-look up entrepreneur to see why was I getting that. You know what I mean? Because I was just doing my work so I could do whatever. And so I received this honor, Entrepreneur of the Year. And I told them on stage I had to look it up.
Yeah, but you are. I mean, you are a beautiful, definition of an artistic entrepreneur, because you're not waiting for people to give you. You are looking how to sell your art, how to position your art. That's an entrepreneur. You are the CEO. You are doing what you need to do to make it happen.
Well, for me to receive an award from it was, that's what really probably knocked it in my head that that's what I was doing, because I've never received any grants or anything like that. I remember a couple of times applying way in the very beginning, but nothing like that. I've served on committees that gave grants to artists, but I never had one. You know, I've even done things for one of my Native American organizations, First Peoples Fund, where that I helped them choose the artists that were going to receive the money to go to extend more to a particular project, like an exhibit or a body of work. Yeah. And one of them followed my suit, which was cute. And he ended up doing a children's book. So
Oh,
they showed me that. So that meant a lot. But the funniest thing when I went to do workshops with them is that they said on Indian time, when people were late, oh, he's on Indian time. Okay. I thought we only had that.
it's in every culture. It's in every culture. I want to know about when you started incorporating affirmations into your life.
I have so much poetry. I started doing that for myself, and I'm trying to remember when I started doing it. It probably was close to the time when the affirmation books were coming out, because Iyanla Van Sant, that's affirmations, they were spiritual.
Yes.
Susan Taylor's in the spirit, they're affirmations in some extent. And I believe I saw what might have propelled me to do it in the beginning was that I found it wasn't either of those two ladies. A Native American book I saw, affirmations, and that was an affirmation book that made me want to create some affirmations of my own. And even in my book on it's called Living My Dream, an artistic approach to marketing. I even have affirmations in that for artists.
Can you please republish that book? That is a hard book to find.
I can because it's on Amazon.
No, you can't find it on Amazon. I had to go to a back. I had to go deep in the woods to get that book.
Okay, so did you get the first one on the cover? What does the cover look like? It might be my 50th anniversary version.
Oh, okay.
No, but yeah. And then I had put out a lot of poetry and prose books. They're there because I want them to be there, and people that haven't discovered them will. They take a little back seat at times through my painting because I do more marketing and all with them. But what I've decided in my virtual offerings, I'm going to offer book signings because I can do virtual book signings because I've done more recently art table books on my art that have my art in it. Mm-hmm. And one of them is also in the back has exercises for artists, young or whatever age, to create something. You know, it's like a little, what do they call it? Oh, My Multicultural World. And the other one is Kaleidoscopic World. The Kaleidoscopic World is more, has the works in the back that you can actually do. But there are affirmations for artists I try to put in most everything I do.
What is an exercise that you would give artists to start to open them up?
Oh, to open them up, that's going to be easy. I would have them purchase a canvas or an inexpensive canvas. It doesn't matter. It could be on board, you know, canvas board rather than stretched on wood. That's more inexpensive. And I'd ask them to get a good size one. Trying to think of what paints would be best. Maybe acrylic would be best, but oils are good too. And I'd have them just create an abstract painting. Just put the colors that make you feel good on it. I would want them to do that. And when they finish that, I think there would be something that would make them want to paint more. Let me try this and let me try that. But to have a complete painting, nothing that you don't have to paint a toe. You know, you don't have to do this particular thing. You just take your freedom. And I once did a work with some autistic children, and it was in Long Beach. The facilitators, I don't know how long that was. It might have been 25 feet. Yeah, because for Ontario Airport, my 150 feet are in increments of 25 feet. So autistic children came to paint with me. And we were right on the beach, you know, on the cement side, but the beach was behind us. They had their little cups and they poured their little paints in it, more like poster paints, but kind of acrylic. Mm-hmm. And they were just at first calmly painting. And after they got into it for a while, 3 little girls started doing stuff like this. And they were almost getting the cameraman behind them to get it right. And his camera almost got some paint. But they got to be like that. They so adored it. I have a picture of that. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
I don't have all my children in it, but yeah. And then after that, they had like a grilled hot dogs and stuff like that on the beach and potato chips. But that was what they did. And what they were supposed to do, and I hope they did do it, they put that painting in the facility.
That's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
hope they did. Yeah, it was quite incredible. Then they started not wanting the other one to be in their space because they wanted more room.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If you're just free to throw some paint or paint on it, one of the things I used to do when I was first painting abstract pieces, I used to cut up sponges. And I didn't use a brush. I just took a piece of a sponge, maybe about that big, and I used that to make designs and oils on a canvas. And that would end up being a painting, that someone purchased. I can't remember, but I ended up, first of all, in my apartment, of course, I had to fill my apartment. But then people began asking, but that's kind of releases you too. You're not using a brush. You can use whatever you want to use.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I want to get back to the business. Can you give maybe 3 to 4 tips to artists who are, they're coming out of school, they're being courageous enough to step out in their art. What are a couple of things you would give them to start their journey? Like what would you, without, being too heavy-handed, but a couple of things that you would say to them to help them on their journey?
I guess one of the things I would say is to block out all the noise and when anybody is saying, or even what they've said in the past, from your mind, and listen to your inner spirit. And that's where you come from and what you're doing. I believe I remember with something with writing, hearing someone say this, and it really resonated. No one's going to see it unless you want to show it. So you go to your painting, since it's one of the beginning ones, and do it without thinking about all that outside static. I would say also not to be concerned so much with traditional places to exhibit and sell. Especially nowadays, you don't have to with the online and all that stuff. But if there's a youth center, if there's your church, is there some organization that you're part of that, or you might want to help, have a little tiny show there and sell some of your work there and give them a percentage as a technically commission, but as a donation. And there you're getting these spaces to show your work, but you're also helping. And also you have a reason why they even want even more for you to be there, because they're going to benefit as if like a fundraiser. What I did too is I looked at a lot of exhibitions around. I mostly looked at New York and here, but I looked for places that were having exhibits or they were looking for artists to exhibit. The only thing with that is you have to be so extremely careful of who you're dealing with now, because there's so much fraud and all this crazy stuff going on. You don't want to send your work and never see it again. But legitimate places that you can research and feel comfortable with and create that contract that they have to send back to you and sign before you ever send it. From doing that to a small gallery in New York, when I was creating my wild domestic animals around just after Disney time, that's what got me to Paris. She wanted to exhibit the work after seeing it. It was there in New York, and they gave me the Prix de Paris award or something. But that was my invitation to come and exhibit in Paris. I had to pay to go. I could have just sent them, but I wanted to go. So you never know what door will open because of your trying to say, or then you're building a resume. That's a good thing to think of. You're building a resume. Think of what you could keep adding to what you've done and what you're doing, so more comes.
What I appreciate of you saying you went there on your dime is that you have had no problem investing in yourself to go to places where your art was. I heard you talking about how you did a piece for Nelson Mandela that his daughter and was it his daughter
his grandson
and his grandson
came. Yeah, her son.
But you ended up going to Africa when they were presenting it to him. Yes.
Oh no, I didn't get to go to Africa.
Oh, okay.
So, no, that's okay. That's where the piece went after.
Okay.
He has a museum there.
Oh, the
And I don't,
museum. Did you go
yeah,
to the
but see,
museum?
no, what we did is we unveiled it in Washington, D.C. Okay, and the name of the organization is Africare.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why. That was incredible. It's you never know what's coming, but here's that other thing. You've got to have what I've always done. I used to where I got the idea from. Real estate brokers usually have a card and they have their mugshot on it, right? So you know
Yes.
who, yeah. I decided to put my paintings on the card. So I think that people coming out of whatever they're coming out of college or high school or wherever they are, whatever they want to do, to invest with like a Vistaprint company that makes business cards for very little money. Put your art on there. Have something that you can give or leave with people. So you never know where you might meet someone. But if you give them something that looks professional and they actually get to look at your work on there, it's better for them to jog their memory and say, oh, this is a serious, committed person. That would be something, always to start out being able to let people know you exist, you're around. I'm here. You know, that's okay. Back up a minute. Terry McMillan's book cover, when that became the craze, and Terry said it was like she's never seen any book covered with that much attention to ever get that much attention. And it got so much attention. I only wish I was in New York for people that told me when they were riding the subway or on the bus, the women were all reading it, but then you can see my art. So you look down the aisle, you see my art down the aisle, or in the bookstores when you pass.
Now, did you do publicity when that book came out just to let people know that it was your art?
What I exactly did is I Xeroxed the copy of it, even if it was in black and white. I put together a list of book publishers and I mailed it out, letting them know it was available to do book covers. So it was like follow up.
Yes.
And
What
that's why I've done so many book covers.
what would you say the top three, four things you do with your work regularly that you feel brings you success once the work is done?
Once like a painting is completed, you mean?
Yeah, and to put it out there, it's like if it's not something that's commissioned, or if it is something that's commissioned, do you have a little system that you go, I'm going to send this off. I have a list of newspapers or magazines or whatever, and let them know, hey, Synthia St. James has a new piece of art out in the world. Do you do that?
What I've done is I've done press releases that I've written when I'm getting ready to have an exhibit, or when my work is in a museum, stuff like that. I've done that. What I've done when I first complete something, I usually put that on social media. So then all kinds of social media sees the piece. And what I'm doing more consciously now is thinking about my younger audience who have grown up with my books around them, like Acts of Faith that their mother or grandmother had, or Terry's book, or, Waiting to Exhale or something. And some of my children's books too. So they know I've gone to colleges where that some of the students have told me that their mother used to read one of my books to them, their children's books, so that was really kind of fun too. But it's kind of like you gotta use that other thing, like we both do, the left side. But left side is also creative in that it can think, let me do this press release. So as soon as this piece is done, what I'm doing now, to me, all of them are important. I'm not really at liberty to talk about it a lot, which is okay, but it's done. It's contract, deposit, all that's done. But I want to keep it quiet until probably February. But once it's unveiled, and it's going to be unveiled in New York, then I will, after the fact, post it, so people will see. And then other times I just go back if something I've done before that maybe no one has seen in a while, and I might post it. Primarily Facebook, Instagram, trying to get more into threads. I'm not sure what's the best. They're not usually all the best for selling. And then you'll be surprised who may want to purchase.
What I love is how you have embraced social media as part of your business, that you've really you've embraced it. And I love the fact that you're embracing technology, because just the fact that you said, I got a new laptop,
Oh, I'm so
I got
happy.
I got a new iPad, I got, I because I do believe technology is what keeps us connected today. And to be able to go on social media, and because you can connect to the world, you know.
I've got a couple more things I'm just thinking of. We're talking about technology. I believe also the young artists coming out, they should start not only putting it on social media, but there's a couple of sites that are very good. And one is called, well, it's actually one and the same. It's called fineartamerica.com. That's one. But Pixels is the other, but they are connected. You upload your art, whatever you want to upload, which means that you need to get a high res digital file of 100 meg, 300 dpi. So you can reproduce from it. You can reproduce G clays, which you can purchase one at a time when someone orders. But if you get that and you get up on something like, to begin with, Fine Art America or Pixels, you can sell everything. What you're doing is you're licensing them to an extent. There's a base cost, and you can put whatever amount above it that you want, and that's what you get as royalty monthly. It's everything from cell covers to duvet covers to shower curtains to babies onesies to prints in all sizes and printed on wood or metal and all that. And what happens is they take care of all that, and you get the royalty of what you want from it.
It's almost like digital on demand.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you can do that. And there's more than one. I'm working with a new one. Let me see how that works, because they have other clients. There's another one that works with a lot of businesses, and I have a lot of work in healthcare places, but only a little bit in hospitality, only one hotel. But their clients are more based with them. And that's another licensing thing, that they create the print and you get 25% of what it sells for. But you don't have to do anything. But I'd say first, Fine Art America Pistols, towels, you name it, mugs.
One thing I heard you say, because you've had your art in embassies.
An artist can submit to that. They all just have to go to that, what is it, art and embassies.gov or something, art and embassies, or just look up art and embassies. And they're waiting because that's all their ambassadors choose the art that's going to be in their embassies during their term. So that's there for the whole term. I think it's 3 years. I'm not quite sure if it's 3 or 4. Sometimes what happens, another embassy might want it, and then you have to okay it, and then it can go there. But
Okay.
they take care of all of the shipping and everything. There's no expense. Occasionally you'll get someone that will purchase something, but that's not always what happens. But it looks damn good on the resume.
Question: have you designed your wine bottle yet?
I've been wanting to. I did an interview. Oh, you saw that?
I did. I did.
He really was really excited about it afterward, and it was kind of in the works, but then it didn't happen because he really wanted to do it. So I haven't been able to do that yet. There's still quite a few things.
Just a thought. For some reason, when you were saying that, I kept seeing Issa Rae, because I believe she started a wine company. Like
Yes.
Perfect. That would be a perfect fit for you to do that for a Black woman who is selling wine. Just a thought. Just a thought.
That's still, see, there's always work. I mean, I can go like, well, let them know that, but thank you for reminding me. But that's something I've always wanted to do. But I'm shooting pretty good.
Another thing that I heard you talk about that I thought, oh my God, this would be so fabulous, because you love dance, to have a dance show where people are doing your art, that that your art is featured in it, that the art becomes live. It comes alive.
Well, you're telling me exactly. But two of my choreographer friends, but one in particular, has been wanting to do forever. And her name is Eartha Robinson. I don't know if you know her, but she and Vernee Watson have a school for dance and acting together for years. So they have little people that come. And that's been something she wanted to do. I've had others describe it as there's a painting, but it's the dancers, and they come off the back set or curtain, whatever, and they come out, but it's all coming off of a painting. But so far, it hasn't happened. There's been ideas, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, well, I'll speak it into the universe for you. I'll just put it out there for you.
About 6 months, or not even 6 months before I got the commission to do the 150-foot piece for Ontario Airport, I was in airport speaking it out that this is one of the things I really want to do. So it was almost shocking when I got the call.
I love it. I love it. You are a manifester.
And then you know about the Galeries, my clothing line that
No,
has my
tell us. Tell us.
Oh, the Galeries.com is in Montreal, Canada, and they do. It's not like buying a T-shirt, whatever. It's more of a boutique, and it's a quality. It's a very nice quality. And I have so many wearable arts. And the only thing I have for men, unfortunately, are really upper end T-shirts, but they have my art. The full shirt is my art. So it's a wearable art.
I'll include it in the description so people can get a hold of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
So that one's good because when you started talking about the dance, I thought you were talking about dance wear.
That would be good too.
Right. Well, some of the clothing they can wear that way. Yeah, there's some really different designs.
My last question to you is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I guess what I want it to be is more embraced. I don't want to be an artist that lived and forgotten. I want to be a continuous inspiration to others. And I believe that can be done just if they're inspired by the art itself or about maybe reading about a little bit about me or whatever. And when you first said that, the one thing that I've made certain of is that none of my work is going to be untitled. When you go to museums and there's a piece by so-and-so, it is untitled. So I have thought way ahead. And I've always had a will forever since the 80s because of the art. Where's the art going to go? So I've getting ready to redo some things just to make sure that it's going to work right. But designated museums is where the art's going to go so that people can continue to see the work. I feel kind of sad when I look at incredible artists that most people have forgotten, or there's no way for them to see, or nothing was done after they passed. I think when you do that, I think that's another part of the responsibility. That I wanted to be something. I wanted it to be for something, not just me.
A huge thank you to Dr. Synthia St. James for reminding us what's possible when you commit your vision and your voice. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you thought about this interview. And if you love what you heard, please buy me a cup of coffee. That keeps this show going strong. You know, we need your help. We need your support. And don't go anywhere because coming up, we've got another great video packed with tools to take you from undiscovered to unstoppable.